Hello and welcome. My name is Sierra Floca, and I am a doctoral student in the Organization Development and Change program at Bowling Green State University. The purpose of this presentation is to showcase development of my foundational understanding of collaborative change principles for facilitating collaborative change events. I will explain the patterns I uncovered in the methods that I studied and help you, the audience, visualize how you can apply these learnings into your life. In this presentation, I will introduce the concept of collaborative change, define the 8 design elements, and list the 11 collaborative change methods that I compared in both an affinity diagram and mind map. Finally, I'll demonstrate how all of these can tie together and be used in virtually every workplace and space. First things first, what even is collaborative change? Dr. Stephen Cady defines collaborative change as the intentionally purposeful experience of sharing among 2 or more people in order to achieve mutually desired outcomes. We need ways to involve every department, group, and person for change to occur. This can happen through collaborative change methods. So collaborative change methods are grouped into design elements. Next, we're going to dive into the 8 essential elements of these designs. So as OD practitioners, we use collaborative change methods to enact whole system collaborative change. Each method is comprised of 8 essential elements. The invitation describes an opportunity or problem and presents the approach to that solution. So basically, why you and why now? The purpose is the why. How can this method transform the culture towards becoming more agile and resilient in achieving co-owned and demonstratable superior results? Why are we going to use this approach? The system describes who needs to be involved. How can we best engage everyone? And the experience talks about the approach. How in the world is this actually going to work? When you think about these large organizations, global organizations that need change, how can you fathom how it's going to work? So what are the steps and what's involved? Technology is basically that. How is it or can it be used or not used? And then evidence demonstrates the ideas, theories, and the history of the method approach. Values describes the core principles. What are the behavioral expectations? And then mastery is how can someone become a master in utilizing this change method? All right, so moving on, we're going to dive into the 11 collaborative change methods that I learned about. As you can see here, these are the change methods that I studied. While I won't be going over each of these in depth, I wanted to touch on which methods were included so you had a good visual and could always refer back just to make sure if you weren't sure. And after this, we're going to begin to discuss the patterns that were explored through the use of utilizing a mind map and an affinity diagram. Okay, so now let's get into my process. How did I learn about all of these, and how in the world did I find patterns? Well, my process was, the first step was to read about everything. There was an ample amount of reading and learning that went into this. I really had to, I wanted to, I guess, at first read about each of the methods and figure out kind of what they were about. From then, I wanted to understand how, their 8 design elements worked in depth. So by doing that, I reread each and I started tracking each of the methods and their design elements via Excel. It was a great way to begin to recognize patterns. All right, so now moving on to my affinity diagram. What is an affinity diagram? Affinity diagramming is a technique that is used to organize and categorize large amounts of information into more manageable groups based on relationships. Affinity diagramming can be particularly helpful in group settings where different perspectives can be synthesized into a cohesive whole. So, this is my affinity diagram just to give you a better visual of what it is and how you can use it. So I used this to uncover meaningful groupings among the 11 collaborative change methods that I showed you on a previous slide. I first listed each of the essential 8 design elements at the top. Underneath those is kind of where I broke them down to list out the main themes of each of the change methods. The colors represent one of the 11 change methods, which you can see on the side for the labels. I'm a visual learner personally, so the colors really help me to uncover more patterns and just get kind of a visual representation of the data and to understand it more. For this, I found Trello to be extremely useful. I tried it out in the Lucid website, which is also a great tool, but I found this one to be more reliable. Okay, so now moving on, now that I've done my affinity diagram, now it's time to mind map. Mind mapping is useful for visually organizing and connecting ideas in a non-linear way. It can be a useful tool for brainstorming, problem solving, and project planning, etc. It's particularly useful for tasks that involve generating new ideas or exploring complex relationships between different concepts. Okay, so my mind map, again, you can see that I'm a visual learner. I like pictures and all of that. So I created my mind map to innovate and expand on my experience into new strategies, ultimately uncovering more patterns and also learning that there is more than one pathway to the focal point. Okay, so now you've seen my affinity diagram and mind map. How can these tools be utilized in organization development? And how and why is this relevant for you, your life, and your understanding? Let me show you through an instructive visual. Okay, so again, how can these tools be used in organization development and change in your life, in your conference rooms, in your strategy mapping, and in your classrooms? Well, it's simple. First, you're going to utilize an affinity diagram to collect and organize extensive information. Affinity diagramming, again, is great for categorizing and sorting ideas and identifying common goals and issues. Affinity diagramming is also a useful tool for project management, problem solving, and decision making, which can be useful in a variety of industries and for managers, consultants, researchers, educators, students, and so on. Then, we're going to expand and innovate our current understanding through mind mapping. Mind mapping is great to stretch your current understanding of the connections you uncovered in the affinity diagram. Mind mapping is also useful to allow free-flowing thoughts that can lead to innovation and generating new ideas. It helps users to understand how the future can be visualized. Mind mapping can be used by almost anyone with a need for a solution. Then we're going to compare to see deeper patterns and understand that there's more pathways, there's multiple pathways to the focal point. So you can do this by creating instructive visuals such as this slide. It's great for summarizing informations and learnings and can be used to teach others about the learnings or marketed for a project. Okay, well, thank you for watching. I hope you found this presentation useful and something that you can add to your toolbox to aid you in the future.